It's our stories. Welcome to a world where real stories sounds like a movie script.
What's up, everybody? Today, I want to share a heavy one. A story about my wife, about how she pushed for an open marriage, thinking it would fix things, and how everything blew up in our faces. I never imagined I'd be posting something so personal online and asking strangers for advice, but here I am. This is the full story. How we got here, what happened in counseling, what I discovered, and where we stand now. My wife and I have been together for 10 years and married for 8. We met in college, and weird as it sounds, we were each other's firsts. First loves, first everything. For a long time, I genuinely believed that made us special, that our relationship had some kind of protected quality because we'd grown up together. I thought that bond would shield us from usual relationship pitfalls. I was wrong. Some time back, she started a new job. At first, she had trouble fitting in. She's always been reserved, quiet around strangers, the kind of person who needs time to warm up. I encouraged her to take part in office life, to make friends. I wanted her to have a social circle, people she could relate to beyond our little home life. She did make friends, a group of women, some single, some divorced, some dating. None were married. At first, I was glad she found that. I thought, good, she deserves it. But things changed. She started going out more, drinks after work, weekend parties, nights when she'd say she'd be home late and then text at 2 a.m. about something they did. At first, I shrugged it off. I didn't want to be the jealous, controlling husband. I wanted to support her freedom. Still, I admit I was worried. I tried to talk a few times, gently about balance and about noticing a shift in her, but she brushed me off. I told myself to trust her, to let her breathe. Looking back, I was already giving up pieces of the conversation I should have had. It began to affect our sex life. My wife had never been the one who initiated intimacy. She was shy, comfortable in routine, but she used to be affectionate, present. Over months, with her nights out and fatigue from late evenings, she was often too tired or not in the mood. Intimacy waned, and I bottled things up. I thought it was a phase. Then the new manager arrived at her office. He was the kind of man who drew attention, confident, assertive, good-looking. At first, she mentioned him casually. He handled that meeting like a pro, and I nodded. Then the mentions multiplied. Did you see how he solved that? He was so calm. He has this way. She began to single out non-work moments, how he listened, how he shrugged off pressure, how he handled people. I started to feel uneasy. I asked about it, not accusatory, just curious. She brushed it off, but then one day she asked me this odd question. Did I regret not having more experience with women? That one stung. I said no, that she was all I ever needed and still am. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker in her eyes, a sadness, but she changed the subject fast. A few days later, she casually brought up the idea of an open marriage. Maybe it would spice things up, she suggested. I was stunned. My wife was never that kind of person. She'd never been particularly sexually adventurous or even liberal in those terms. I felt blindsided. I asked if this had anything to do with the manager, and she denied it, saying she just felt like she'd missed out somehow, but also that she didn't want to lose me. She framed an open marriage as a compromise, a way to explore while keeping what we had. I was skeptical. I thought it was playing with fire, but also I was naive and hopeful. Maybe it could be controlled. Reluctantly and honestly foolishly, I agreed. I thought rules would protect us. We set a few boundaries. The main one was simple. Nobody in our home. That was it. That was the anchor we clung to and convinced ourselves would hold everything steady. For about a year, she started going on dates, sometimes sleeping with men, sometimes one-night stands. She returned to our life with little fanfare, then left again to live that separate social life. And before long, of course, the very manager I had worried about became more than a name mentioned in passing. Somehow, he became someone she saw more intimately. An emotional thing at first, then it crossed the line. I tried to be fair to myself. I went on a few dates too, but it rarely felt right for me. Those flings never fit. They felt hollow, wrong. My wife would ask if I was okay with things. I'd say I was. She wouldn't change her behavior. Over time, the pure, innocent love I had for her, the kind that used to be easy and unquestioning, felt like it was dying. I felt hollow in ways I never expected. The person I loved seemed to be slipping away. During that period, I met someone else. She had moved from South Korea, warm, funny, quick-witted. Conversation with her was effortless. It started as two people connecting and quickly became so much more. We dated a few times, and then things turned intimate. I discovered a side of physical and emotional closeness I hadn't known in a long time. She made me feel desired, alive. She gave me a sense of being seen. It was intoxicating, in a positive way I hadn't felt in years. I hadn't expected it, and honestly, once it started, it consumed me. At first, my wife thought my new thing was cute, even harmless. But months in, when she saw that I was smiling again, that messages lighting up my phone made my face change, she started to panic. Suddenly, she was coming home early to surprise me with dinner, cleaning the house, even dropping off food at my work. She pushed for intimacy. I tried sometimes, but the spark wasn't there. I found myself participating just to avoid conflict. It wrecked me to do that, because something in me that belonged to her was gone. Partly because of her choices, partly because of mine. I remember sitting across from her and asking what had changed. Why such a 180? She told me, through tears, that she wanted to show me that she loved me and was happy with me. I laughed then, not because I was cruel, but because it felt surreal. I asked, "What about your friends? The manager? Your nights out?" She had no answer. That night she went to bed and cried. The next day she asked me to close our marriage. She said opening it was a horrible mistake, that she regretted everything and wanted to make us the focus again. I asked her straight, "What pushed you there?" She admitted it was her friends, women who bragged about sexual exploits, who made her feel like she'd missed out on adventures because she'd been committed and never had other partners. They suggested avenues, framed it as self-discovery. One had even suggested open marriage as a loophole. Worse, the manager encouraged it, telling her to live free. The emotional affair with him had been satisfying at first. It became physical only after we opened things. She described the whole thing to me like a drunk behind the wheel of a speeding car. Thrilling at the moment, intoxicating, but catastrophic in consequence. Now, she said, she could see that she never needed comparison. What we had was unique. She felt like she'd murdered our marriage, and the weight of that realization was crushing. I told her the honest thing I felt. I might never be able to see her as my wife in the same way again. She fell apart. She sobbed, and I held her as she cried until she collapsed to sleep on the couch. From then on, she quit her job, cut off contact with those friends, blocked the manager, and begged me for forgiveness, promising to spend her life making up for it. She wanted to be recognized by me as a wife again and said she'd work day and night to earn that place. But there's one complicating truth. I didn't end my connection. My lover, the woman from South Korea, made me feel like a man again. She made me feel powerful, capable, desired. It's hard to admit, but that's what she did. She rescued me in some way when I was at a low point. I knew my choices hurt my wife, and I feel guilty, but I can't pretend my feelings changed overnight. I was stuck between two worlds, the guilt and the warmth, the home and the excitement. We had our first marriage counseling session soon after. The therapist seemed experienced, fair, and genuinely invested in helping us. In that session, my wife opened up in ways she hadn't before. She confessed the degree to which her friends influenced her, that she felt she missed experiences because she'd been with one person from a young age, and that the group's lifestyle made her question her life choices. The therapist pointed out something that hit me hard. When your social circle normalizes a way of being that conflicts with your marital commitments, it can erode the marriage in dangerous ways. My wife agreed. She recognized that this mindset, if unchecked, frequently ruins marriages. She told the therapist that after the manager started flattering her, her friends urged her to see where it goes, to explore. She claimed she never went physical at first, that it was emotional at first, but the emotional bond made crossing lines easier once we opened things. She said she believed the whole thing would enhance our life, that it would be an adventure. She now realizes how empty it was compared to what we had built over the years. She said she'll never forgive herself, that the chance to have amazing experiences clouded her judgment, and the gravity only hit when she saw the change in me. At first, she thought I'd accept it over time if I dated too, that I'd slowly get used to the idea. That didn't happen. Instead, when my lover became a regular fixture in my life, my face changed. I smiled again, text messages gave me a spark, and I'd cheerfully step out to return a call. My wife noticed and said she felt a pit in her stomach, panic attacks that came from nowhere. She turned to her friends for support, and they told her it was a normal reaction, that she'd misjudged what adventure does to people. The divorced friend who'd pushed the open marriage casually said, "It looks like his lover makes him happy." Hearing that from them was a brutal awakening for my wife. She finally realized how toxic her social circle was as they pushed her into choices without recognizing the fallout. She begged them to help her win me back, and they shrugged, telling her that if she couldn't accept the arrangement she'd suggested, the fault was hers. That indictment stung her to the core and made her cut them off. She began a mission to salvage the marriage by any means necessary. Me? I didn't say much in sessions, though I told the counselor about my ongoing relationship with my lover. The counselor was blunt. No resolution could be reached while the other woman remained in the picture. She asked me to make a choice before the next appointment. She said she'd seen storms before, but that both partners needed to commit to healing for it to work. I sensed she wanted a success story, but that didn't help the moral weight I felt. The situation evolved, and I posted updates because people on Reddit had asked for them. Some even offered perspectives and questions that I took back into therapy. I moved out to my brother's apartment because staying at the house felt impossible. My brother's property saved me a lot. He offered a place for cheap. I could have stayed for free, but I wanted some dignity, so I paid at the second counseling session. I asked the hard questions the Reddit crowd suggested. Was there anything physical before we officially opened the marriage? She looked down and begged me not to force her to speak it. After pressing, she admitted that it wasn't physical in the classic sense. They had touched themselves in front of each other. She said the manager convinced her that because it wasn't intercourse, it wasn't really cheating, just admiration of each other's bodies. Hearing that floored me. She began shaking, hyperventilating, and crying. The counselor looked stunned. I asked her what changed him, what made him treat her like that. She said as she began to pull back from the group, his behavior shifted. He became more forward. Once, while passing his office, she overheard him tell a male colleague how easy it was to get her, and that she was proof you can't trust quiet women. He called her a pleasant distraction and said he had no intention of leaving his fiancée. He said he pitied me and that you snooze, you lose. That moment destroyed her. She left the building and vomited in the parking lot from shame. She told me her first thoughts had been, "What have I done? Please forgive me." She was raw with guilt. I asked the impossible, did she ever love him? She looked me in the eyes through tears and said she had never stopped loving me. That answer cut deep because it implied that what she felt toward the manager was different. Infatuation, excitement, not love. She said she thought it was love, but now sees it was foolishness. A thrilling distraction that left ruin in its wake. She told me she missed us, our unique connection, and wanted to start over, move away, rebuild from scratch. I told her that would be unfair to my lover and told her I needed time away to process everything. The words sent her into a meltdown. She sobbed incoherently, clinging to me as if I might vanish. The counselor suggested time apart to heal. After that session, I started packing. My wife got a video call from an old friend while I was there. The friend was crying. It turned out that after my wife left that job, the friend and the same manager had a fling. She'd thought she was pregnant and was in a panic. The manager reacted like a monster, accusing her of trying to trap him with a baby. He left her. She lost her baby under stress. She'd already had a boyfriend she could see a future with, but the fling was just curiosity. Ironically, the pattern repeated. That woman reached out because she thought my wife's actions had somehow helped her. She wanted advice or comfort, but mostly she was devastated. I listened. She told me she'd lost the baby and went ballistic. She'd exposed the manager to HR and the manager's fiancé. She told me she wanted to meet in person to get my side because she was building a case against him and needed confirmation. She'd taken COVID tests. So had I. When I met her, I saw someone beaten up by life. Dark circles, hollow eyes, haunted by the fallout. She apologized repeatedly for her part. She said losing the pregnancy and her love shattered her. She couldn't look in the mirror. She accepted that exposing the manager might end his career and possibly ruin hers too. She wanted to take responsibility. I appreciated her willingness to own it, but by then, so much damage had been done. I needed to grab a few things from the old place and thought I'd go when she wasn't there. She was home. I noticed she'd put out our wedding photos on the coffee table. She was staring at them in silence. When she saw me, she cried and tried to hug me. I pushed her gently away. She offered me lunch. I said I wasn't hungry. Before I left, she pulled out her phone and showed me a message from the manager, a new number since she'd blocked his old one. He was furious at her for exposing him, and she had evidence she'd gotten advice from Chump Lady and Marriage Builders, forums that apparently helped her feel empowered to reveal secrets. She thought removing the secret would remove its hold, give us a fighting chance. I told her I admired her courage, but it didn't change my feelings. I told her I wanted to stop marriage counseling and do individual therapy instead. That made her sob softly. She said she understood. I felt numb, not elated by the exposure, not enraged by her long-ago choices, just empty. It didn't feel right. That's why I sought individual counseling, to untangle the numbness, the complex guilt, and the need for a decision. I also met with a divorce lawyer on my brother's recommendation. Not because I wanted to rush to divorce, but to understand my options, to be safe financially and legally. As of that moment, I wasn't sure I wanted to fight for the marriage. The distance between us was palpable. She could sense it. Before I left the house for good, she tried to initiate intimacy. When I refused, she screamed at me. What does she do for you that I can't? What does she, your lover, give you that I, your wife, can't? She yelled, so loud I was sure the neighbors heard. She pleaded that she would do whatever I wanted, be whatever I needed. I shook my head and told her that if she still couldn't see the answer after everything that had happened, then it was clear where our marriage was headed. Then I left. People online chimed in. Some said she'd be tormented forever. Some said maybe she could recover. The sad truth is, she would give anything to go back and not make those choices. But life doesn't give do-overs. Maybe she can become a better person, but probably not with me. She'll remember me and regret what she did. That much I was almost certain of. In subsequent updates, more fallout emerged. The woman who'd had the pregnancy scare actually did lose the baby. She exploded in grief and rage, went scorched earth on the manager, exposed him to upper management and to his fiancée. I found the fiancée on Facebook and realized she was a small-town, family-oriented special needs teacher, the kind of fiancée who cared about home life and stability. It puzzled me deeply why a man like that would risk it all. The former friend contacted me, wanting my version, collecting evidence for the exposure. She'd come to meet me because she wanted to take accountability. She'd been destroyed by the fallout. That meeting was surreal. She had visible suffering etched on her face. She thanked me for meeting and apologized. I realized how many lives were now wrecked around this. She planned to take the manager down, to expose the abuses. She accepted the fallout might ruin her too, but said she had to do it. When I returned to collect more things from the house later, my wife had our photos spread out again, holding them like lifelines. She seemed fragile, someone trying to reassemble a life out of shards. She showed me a message that the manager had sent, berating her. He was furious she'd helped expose him. She said she got the idea to expose him from forums and thought if she shone light on the secret, it might remove its power. I told her that showing courage didn't erase the damage. I told her again I wanted individual counseling. She cried softly and accepted it. I expected some big emotion, rage at her action or elation at the exposures. But mostly I felt numb. That's what worried me. It felt abnormal. That's why I sought one-on-one therapy, to figure out what I truly wanted without the noise. I've been told in comments that I'm cold for stepping away, that I should forgive, that marriages can be rebuilt. Maybe, but for now I'm living apart, processing everything. The lawyer is a safety net. The counseling is tentative hope. The truth remains raw. I don't know whether I'll fight for this marriage or close the book forever. My heart is divided between someone who made me feel reborn and someone who betrayed me and now begs for a return. She's desperate now, trying everything. She said she's willing to spend her life making it up. She's cut ties with the manager, quit the job, disowned those friends, the network that encouraged the wreckage. She's worked to expose the manager so he's accountable. She sobbed to me, knelt, begged, apologized profusely. She even said we could move away, start over with just the two of us. She said she'll do anything. I listened. I didn't promise. I said I needed time. She disintegrated, and I felt the complexity of loving someone who hurt you and yet is the person who once meant everything. I feel guilt. I feel relief at times. I feel bitter. Mostly I feel drained, so here we are. I've shared the sequence of events. How an idea that seemed like an adventure snowballed into betrayal. How toxic influences can warp judgment. And how the fallout reached many people beyond our household. I don't have a neat ending. We have therapy appointments, phone calls, legal counsel, apologies, and the heavy business of rebuilding, if that is even possible. If there's any lesson I've learned from this mess so far, it's this. Social pressure and the normalization of risky behaviors can invade even stable relationships. What seems like a small experiment can escalate quickly. And people are complicated. Sometimes their actions hurt for reasons they won't fully understand until the wreckage is visible. I'm not here to tell you what to do in your relationship. I'm here to say, be careful who you let into that private space. Not every adventure comes without consequences. Not every experiment with love yields growth. Sometimes it destroys what you cherished. Thanks for reading my long post. Sorry, it's a lot. I wanted to tell the whole story so people could see how it unfolded, not just the highlights. For now, I'm taking it day by day. I'm trying to heal, to decide, and to be honest with myself. If anything changes, I'll update. In the meantime, thank you to everyone who reached out with support, advice, or simply listened. It means more than you know. Thank you for staying with me until the end. How would you have acted in the protagonist's place? Write your thoughts in the comments. More fresh and controversial stories every day on my profile. Like and subscribe to this channel.